And now we talk about the sorcerer's inborn powers of their blood and the many abilities that this will grant them. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, going on with the first edition Pathfinder Sorcerer Guide, and today taking a look at their class abilities. Now, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there to hit that subscribe button and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you've already listed yourself on such a legendary roster of heroes and adventurers, then go on down there to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now, with all that self-promoting out of the way, let's go ahead and actually start talking about what this class lets you do. So, to begin with, you're going to be picking up a proficiency with simple weapons, but nothing for armor or shields. Now, having simple weapons proficiency does give you some options there, some decent options, but really, if you're down to using your weapons in melee, something has gone drastically, horribly wrong for you. So avoid this at all costs. What you're really going to rely on is your spell casting. Now, your spell casting, the save DCs are going to be 10 plus the spell level plus your charisma modifier. So making sure that your charisma modifier is up as high as possible is going to be paramount for you. And you'll start off with knowing 4 0-level spells and 2 1st-level spells, and then at 4th level and every 4 levels after, you get to swap a new spell for an old one. Then at level 1, you get eschew materials as a bonus feat, allowing you to get away from spellcasting that requires any material components necessary to normally get the spells to go off properly. Now, there may be a per DM basis where you might have to have some material components, but really that's going to be up to your DM and between you and them. But overall, this will negate the need to keep spell components on hand for most of your general spell casting. And then the next thing that we are going to be looking at here is where you're going to be getting the bulk of your abilities that aren't necessarily spellcasting, and that's from your bloodline. You select a heritage that grants bonus spells, feats, skills, and special abilities, and for this build, we are selecting the Arcane Bloodline. Yes, it kind of makes the sorcerer just kind of stick within that generic sorcerer kind of line, but it really is one of the more, if not the most, mechanically effective bloodline. There's a couple others that seem like they come pretty close to it, but this, I think, really edges everything out by a bit of a margin. And we'll see why here. So to begin with, once you select the Arcane Bloodline, the class skill that you gain from this is any one knowledge skill. You can select whatever one you want. And I would say in this case, probably going religion is going to be the most useful, just because that involves a lot of undead. Religions are fairly important in most Pathfinder games and the like, so this is going to be a pretty solid, reliable one. But consult your DM, see if they're willing to give you some ideas on which knowledge skills are going to be more useful. And then, for your bonus spells, you gain a fair number of really good ones. At 3rd level, you pick up Identify. 5th level is Invisibility. Dispel Magic comes in at 7th level. Dimension Door at 9th. Overland Flight kicks in at 11th. True Seeing at 13th. Greater Teleport at 15th. Power Word Stun at 17th level, and then at 19th level you get Wish. These bonus spells alone are absolutely incredible for you to have. I mean, Overland Flight, while maybe not something you're going to be using reliably, consistently in, say, combat versus the Fly spell, still for traveling around, crossing vast distances, this is going to be a useful spell in that regard. And then Dimension Door, Invisibility, Dispel Magic, True Seeing, and Wish. Holy crap, this is a great bonus spell list for you to have. This is awesome. There's no way around it. Wish alone makes this pretty worthwhile, but everything else here in combination is just awesome. Definitely makes the Arcane Bloodline heritage worth it. And then it still continues on though. For your bonus feats, you can select from combat casting, improved counterspell, improved initiative, iron will, scribe scroll, and skill focus, specifically knowledge arcana, which I don't like skill focus feats, anything like that, but knowledge arcana is a good one to have, spell focus, and still spell. Then you also get bloodline arcana, which lets you do this. When applying a meta magic feat that increases spells level by 1, that spell gains a +1 save DC bonus. This doesn't stack with things like the heightened spell feat, but still, not bad overall. That's pretty nice. Anything that increases spell save DCs is going to be pretty good, especially if you're not having to spend a feat to do so, although the fact that you can throw spell focus in with this does make spell focus a little bit nicer in that regard. And then you get bloodline powers as well. At first level you gain Arcane Bond, which lets you gain Arcane Bond as per the Pathfinder Wizard. You always want to pick a familiar in this case rather than a bonded object. The familiar just flat out does more for you. That hasn't changed in any way, shape, or form. Always go with picking the familiar to gain all of the bonuses from that. Then at third level you get Meta Magic Adept. You can apply one meta magic feat you know to a spell without increasing casting time. Once a day, +1 for every 3 sorcerer levels. This is replaced at level 20 by Arcane Apotheosis. And then, kicking in at 9th level, you get New Arcana. You add one spell from the Sorcerer Wizard list to your spells known that you can cast. It has to be of a level that you can cast. And then you can add another spell at 13th level, then at 17th level, which anything that helps expand the number of spells that you know is going to be incredibly useful for you. Because when it comes to the Sorcerer, you don't have a whole lot of spells known that you can draw from. What you do have, though, is a ton of spells that you can cast. And you get to have, by the time you hit level 20, you can cast 6 9th level spells, or 9th level spells a day, which is huge. That's a lot. That's a lot of power to be packing around there. And quite literally, it may actually be firepower you're able to throw out. So anything that expands your spells known is going to be absolute gold to you. It's also why I recommended picking up that trait that allows you to take Use Magic Device as a class skill. Anything that expands your ability to throw out more spells and a wider variety of spells is going to be inherently valuable to you. And then at 15th level you gain School Power. You pick one school of magic. The save DCs for spells from that school increase by +2 when you cast them. This stacks with the Spell Focus feat, which is again great. That's nice. That makes spell focus that much more worthwhile, because then you can start stacking all these bonuses and make it incredibly difficult for opponents to resist your spells, whatever spell school you're focusing on. So definitely another good ability. And then at level 20 you gain Arcane Apotheosis. Now add any meta magic feats to your spells without increasing the casting time. Whenever you use a magic item that requires charges, you can instead expend spell slots to power the item. For every 3 spell levels you expend, you spend 1 less charge when using a magic item. So if you use up a 3rd level spell slot, that's 3 spell levels, so you spend 1 less charge when using a magic item. Depending on what the magic item is and what spell or ability you're activating, this can either be incredibly useful or kind of terrible for you. But given the high numbers of spells at each level that you can cast, remember I said by the time you hit level 20 and you're throwing around 9th level spells, you're throwing around 6 9th level spells a day. So this is not necessarily a bad avenue for you at all. And certainly if you're thinking about it, going strategically and being precise with which item and which spells you're activating from that item, this can actually be great, especially if you're running low on charges. So definitely a nice ability to have in your back pocket, but It's a level 20 ability, it's a capstone ability. You're probably not going to see this a whole lot unless you're starting on a high level campaign anyways, and even then, this probably isn't going to be coming into play very often, but when it does, it's going to be one of those clutch moments that absolutely lets you just utterly dominate on the battlefield, even more so than what your everyday other spellcasters can do. So definitely something to keep in mind, but probably you're not going to see or play around with a whole lot. Now, these are just the class abilities. I'll have skills and feats coming up for the next episode, and then we'll start digging through the spells, and ooh, that's gonna be fun. It's the spell selection. There's a lot of great spells, especially on the arcane spellcasting list, but for sorcerers, given that we're only allowed such a small number of spells known to us, we definitely have to be careful with what we're picking out. So we'll get around to that very soon. But what do you think? Do you like this particular bloodline selection? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What other bloodlines might you recommend that either compete or, in your opinion, overtake the Arcane Bloodline? Let me know, hit those like or dislike buttons, and remember, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there to hit the subscribe button and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.